like, well, I didn't know what this was. But this person saw something in terms of me getting involved beyond the league. So I went through the training. I learned that you can get involved in everything in the world, but what are you passionate about? You know, are you getting involved in things because you want your name on a resume because it looks great? Or are you getting involved in things because it really are allowing you to make a difference? And this person got me involved in the arts. Never was exposed to that. And boy, did I get a chance to learn what it's like to really enjoy something that I did not know a whole lot about. I knew football. I went to Clemson. What do you do on Saturday? Go to football games, right? You know? Right, you know, the basketball coach at Clemson wanted me to play basketball. I said, well, I can't run and dribble at the same time, but I can be a cheerleader, right? So, you know, but this person saw beyond the sports side of me. I got involved in the arts. I got involved in museums, African American museums. I was a member of Links for almost 15 years. I was involved in my son's school. You know, and those things really broadened my scope and opened my eyes to just so many dimensions of our community. And it's like, where do you want to be? And because of the Junior League, that allowed me to really kind of pick and choose where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do, and to make an impact.
I think for me, like, belonging is an interesting concept because it's this intrinsic need and this feeling that we all have. It's difficult to measure. It can change from time to time. So it's actually one of these pieces that we continue to always kind of have this need for. And we'll continue that, actually, as we think about whether it be the people we're with, the groups we're affiliated with, the places where we spend our time. So it's going to be this continuous way in which we're trying to track and measure belonging. But for me specifically there were those champions and people, very similarly that I had mentioned prior, that are very, very important. But I believe that from my experience, some of the systems in place for Junior League as a whole has helped equip a place of belonging as well. So as Candace mentioned, I had moved a lot based for jobs and different scenarios, and so I had never expected to leave Seattle, but I was given the opportunity time again to move to these different cities. And so Junior League actually was the consistent theme, and every time I entered into a new city, I would, get interested, meet new people in the league. And there were always those different other champions in those leagues that would invite me along or bring me into the local communities in these different cities. And, it's funny because you sit here and you say, growth mindset, just going to learn and get connected to this local community. And then surely you're all of a sudden the provisional manager your very first year in Orange County, California, with new members and learning the land. So it really is some of the systems in place that really allow, I think, a sense of belonging equally to some really special members and people in this league as well.
I think from feeling belonging into the league, every woman has always made me feel welcome. I've learned so much, and all the way from training to annual campaign to sharing sponsorships, I've learned something from everybody, and each person has just made me feel so included. I've just had such amazing experience. It's hard for me personally, to point out one person, but I always resort back to Jennifer Lloyd, and who has just been such an inspiration and encouraged me to definitely take that chance and go to the leadership information for the board or to chair something. And she's been my biggest fan, and I'm ever so grateful for that, for the league that she's been a part of for so long and bringing me a sense of belonging here.
Well, I love that you guys are all talking about like-minded women coming together with a single purpose and kind of just daring each other to do more. Because I've seen that in Junior League as well. But I think we're just so fortunate that that all of you were able to kind of bust through the stereotype of the typical junior league member and find that, because I think that, you know, some people wouldn't even try. So let's talk a little bit about busting stereotypes. All of you have faced adversity at some point in your career or in your life, and have broken through something stereotypical. So I just want to give you some time to talk about just some of the experiences that have shaped you, and maybe even shaped the way that you treat other people. Let's start with Carmen and work this way.
You know, that's a tough one, because I think that there are so many different facets that shape our lives. And to pick just one, you know, gosh, I could go on and on and on, but you know, I think I got out of my comfort zone more so when I became a mother. And one of the things that I have learned to have a lot of compassion for is when people are mistreated, particularly. I have an African-American son. He graduated from Simon Fraser University in Canada. And it really did give us an exposure to how vast this country is, how vast this world is, and how you learn just not being in one place, but how you learn and grow when you're able to travel and to see places. And I admire the fact that you've been in 5 different leagues, because the value that you're able to share in with those leagues, you can bring back and certainly impart those with us. But, you know, one of the things I thought about this as I was driving here is, you know, when my son is, and I still do worry a lot about him. You know, I have a kid. I mean, I have an African American kid, and there's not one day that I don't worry that when he walks out that door, he may not come back. And that's a huge, that's a very painful thing to have to live with every day. You know, when you see the news reports about, you know, these young men of color who were gunned down for no reason at all, when you see that our prison system are, I don't know if any of you saw the movie 13. It was very powerful in terms of our prison system with the number of young men of color that are in prison. Some are there for very petty crimes. So when you talk about empathy and how that gets you out of your comfort zone, when you think about some of those really hard life experiences that you see and that you live every day, it really does make me stop and think about how I can really be more empathetic to someone who is different than I am, that may be living the same experience that I am, someone else that may have an African American young man, or someone that have a young man or have children. I don't think as parents you ever stop worrying about your children. We may worry about them in a different way. And how that experience as a parent, how you're able to shape that person to hopefully be a tribute to the community. And again, I have to go back to my parents. My parents didn't have a lot of money. They were God-fearing, church-going people. I asked my mother to come to Seattle on weekends. She goes, no, I can't miss church. It's like, well, Mom, you can miss church one Sunday, right? But no, she'll get here on a Thursday, she'll leave on a Saturday because she has to be on the choir on Sunday. But my parents were deeply religious. And so one of the things that I really do admire about my parents is that they loved us unconditionally, and they loved us to love other people unconditionally. And so we learned to be empathetic to people who were different than us. And not that they worried any less about us because we were children of color, but they wanted to make sure that they provided us with a window to the world, that we could always be better than who we were, that we could always get back no matter where we were, no matter what institution that we were in. And so being able to take that, shape my life, to live that as a mom to this young man who's actually doing great things as a legislative aide, I feel like you're able to be grateful for being able to see the transition and how the community has been transformed through each one of the things that you guys have done through your own personal experience, through your relationship with different people in here. And I think we were listening back there, and they said, go talk to someone who is a sustainer, someone who's an active, someone who is a provisional. Because what I find is I learn more from people who are not like me. And people who are able to help me raise my game in ways that I never thought that I would be able to raise my game. So anyway, I'm sorry to get a little bit emotional, but that's a pretty heavy subject for me.
For me, what really pushed me forward was when I was 5, my dad came out to our family, and it was 1985, and it was not safe as an educator for him to be gay. And for us, and our family was normal, but what changed for us is that we all essentially were safe with his choice and his partner, but my sister and I essentially went in the closet with him because it was not safe for us to tell people, friends, for his job and such. And so then we started to cover, quite frankly, for him. And so then as he became more comfortable with his identity, we found that as we started to share, friends could no longer come to our house on weekends because clearly we were doing gay conversion therapy on weekends at our house. So what that led for us to truly learn about this concept of covering truly is, and really it's been coined and defined by Kenji Yoshino from NYU, which covering is a downplay of a known stigmatized identity. And it can be truly that someone is covering that they may be LGBTQ, that somebody may have a preference and may change the way they wear their hair, the way they may, and I hear this from women every single day, that they may not share family planning for fear of being passed up for fear of promotion, that women may choose to continuously color their hair for fear of age, that we continue to hear people not share that their wife makes more than them, that they may not have a degree. And so we know that people cover. In fact, that 61% of people cover. And it gets even higher when we talk about LGBT, people of color, women. And covering had been very big in my life and as my family, because we covered for such a huge part of it. I even shared earlier in this conversation, I covered how much I could bring to the junior league in terms of what I financed to wear that cute dress to one of the events in the beginning. And that was just part of who I was in trying to truly fit in, to be part of, quote unquote, like that insider group. And so this piece about covering has been really not only prominent in the work that I do today, but also in terms of how mindful I am of that statistic that 61% of people do cover. And I find even when we work and talk with leaders, executives, honestly straight white men, we find that 40% of straight white men that are leading our Fortune 500, they are covering as well. And so we all are have these certain ways in which we are not feeling comfortable or safe. And I think that there is opportunities to have those conversations with others that are different than us, to learn from others, build empathy, so that we truly can kind of begin to kind of have these real conversations to break these kind of barriers down that we're not talking about and really start to get to that place of belonging that we're talking about.
So mine really has a lot to do just from a career standpoint. So I was in the car business, and I'm going to guess that probably the majority of you don't enjoy purchasing a car. I'm just going to throw that out there. But I was very, very, very fortunate to work for an amazing owner that really helped me and lifted me up with respect to my career. I was the first store that I was at, I was one of 4 women in the store out of 40. And this was in 1994 in Seattle, and nobody really thought of me as any different. And as I started to escalate in my career, I then noticed, what do you do? Are you a receptionist? Are you a secretary? And I was like, no, I run the place. was. So just trying to really, show that within these organizations and what dealerships do and how many employees they have, there are 18,218 dealerships nationally that employ over 20 million people, yet only 18% of those are women. So, and then when you get to the executive positions, which is what I held, there's only 2%. So, I really felt as though during my career and what I'm doing now is carry on that legacy and to continually encourage women to go to automotive retail because I've been blessed with so many things, is that to understand that 85% of the decision making in purchasing a car is made by women, right? So we've really got, I just feel like I have this huge responsibility to get out there from the community standpoint, from the work standpoint, to get into schools and to let young ladies know that, hey, this is a great career. And right now, nobody's encouraging these ladies in just from a technology standpoint. Most of the cars have over 9 computers in them. They're downloaded with software. You're getting an oil change once every 15,000 miles. So there's a lot of technology. There's a lot of opportunity. And I'll remember I was interviewing a lot of technicians at a technical school here. And out of 50 of them, one was a woman. And she was there in her pearls. She's picking up tires and changing brakes. And I just was like, why isn't anybody talking to her? I'm like, hey, how are you? I love your little pearls and your pink purse. So how's this going for you? And she's like, oh my gosh, yay. And I hired her. And she was a great technician, but starting off in her career and in her 20s, and she's still there, at the dealership doing what she really, really loves. And so I had the most women technicians out of my 40 technicians that I had. It was only 4, but that was the most out of our dealer group. So I think just continuing to break down the stereotype that, we can really do a lot of good out there in the workforce. We're half of the workforce. And supporting those that, I really encourage anybody that's trying to go out into a new career that they want to dip their toe in. And my steadfast comeback is I'm like, well, why wouldn't you? Walk in like you own the place, right? Walk in with confidence, walk in with purpose, and know that you have a ton of friends and support that will help you make it happen. Don't worry about it, because we're all here to support you.
And I have to tell you, I was so sad when Lisa left the Audi dealership. I bought 3 cars from her, and she is a force. Let me tell you, she is a force to be reckoned with. I hurried up and wrote my check before the price went up any higher. But she was wonderful and negotiated just a great deal on her Audi. So.
That's a ringing endorsement. I love that. Well, now she's training others, and you also touched on really just the importance of representation and what happens when maybe a different point of view is in the room making decisions, right? So I want to talk a little bit about that, about perspectives and point of view and representation. I think being in Seattle, we probably all heard the news from Amazon this week. About the development that a team at Amazon did on an AI product to look through resumes, and they didn't factor in some of the existing bias. So it was an AI product that would look through resumes, pick the top 5% for the job, but that was based on some teams where it was mostly men, so it would take out women. So there's a case of where, having a woman in the room would have been a benefit in designing the AI in the first place. And there are so many other places where we need more representation. What can you say, what are your thoughts just on representation and how each one of us can do something to make sure that representation happens where it needs to?
I think we have to, representation is very, very important. I think we have to think about the way in which But I also think we have to think about the way in which representation is being used responsibly. I often find that representation is used for the sake of representation, and in some cases, I'm just going to call it out, I think that we can see a black or brown being used for tokenism in some cases, and them having held some responsibility that they are not necessarily, that they don't want in some cases. And so I think we have to be really intentional with the way we think about representation, and quite frankly, we're not seeing movement in technology when they are putting dollars and over dollars on trying to make great strides in the diversity and inclusion efforts. However, so much focus has gone to representation. However, the challenge is they're getting fed up with progress that has been very, very slow, and we know that this is a very slow, this work is very slow, but also the challenge is, it really is, you can bring as many people or attract as many people to the seat, but it's really about the inclusion and belonging piece to ensure that you are fostering a place where people feel welcome, valued, respected, and heard. And that is really the key piece, and that's really where we're going to see actual movement happen for this industry, quite frankly. So I think that there is value, kind of going back to Amazon, I do think that there is a misstep, absolutely, when we think about our biasing and the way in which we're looking at resumes, and there are probably many other factors that are missing outside of just gender from that AI. However, I also believe that we're thinking about, once we're spending so much time in the attract, we really also have to be thinking about now our investment and ensuring that we've got people really invested and truly happy once we have them here. And that's really the inclusion and belonging piece.
Not sure if I can add much more to that. That's great. I always feel like you want to demand to have your seat at the table. And how do you demand in a way that you're not looked at as a woman who is, emotional and not as qualified? And we all know, looking across this room, women can do anything that a man can do, and sometimes better, many times better. I look at my husband, and we think very differently. My husband is extremely bright, but he thinks with a different side of the brain than I do, where I can multitask, he cannot. And he says multitasking means failure. It's like, okay, so, all right, but I feel like I'm pretty successful at what I do. So it's an ongoing debate in my family. But we also know that there are decisions that are not always made in the boardroom. They're made outside of the boardroom, whether it's golf or tennis or clubs that you may not be a part of, and so we already out of the gate are excluded. So we have to figure out, how do we get our voices heard, and how are we seen? I've been in meetings when I was working in corporate America before I became a real estate broker, where I could say the same thing that little Billy said next to me, but Billy would say that, and it was heard. So I almost felt like the invisible woman. It's like, well, I think I just said that. But it wasn't taken very seriously. And I thought, you know what? I'd leave the room, I'd leave the meetings just being so angry and all this angst. And I thought, you know what? I have to own this. I have to make sure that whatever it is that they're not hearing and seeing in me, I got to make sure that I'm not being emotional about it, but I am being proactive, I'm being diligent. I have to admit, sometimes we have to work a little bit harder and smarter to get to the table. If you look at corporate America, we still are, I don't know what the percentage is, but we still haven't leveled the playing field yet. And so there's still a lot of work to be done to get us to that corporate table. We're making improvement, but we're not there yet. And so, I just feel as though we have to continue to get our voices, make our voices heard. We have to get out there. We have to be a sounding board in the boardroom. And to get to the boardroom, Sometimes we have to be, creative. And with all the technology that is driving our communities now, it's, so you take another course or you find a different system of how you make yourself heard and not seen. And there was another thing that I had too, and it went back to something that you had said, Lisa, was in regards to when someone will pick up the phone and say, oh, are you the secretary, whatever. I often wonder what would happen if people heard us and didn't see us. And how would they evaluate our true potential instead of labeling us as, I'm going to let my buddy, because I have more in common with him, because we're going to go kick it at the bar, we're going to go have a beer, or we're going to go to the golf course. If people didn't see labels, didn't see people, what would our business community, what would our corporate world look like? So, unfortunately, I was asked to leave a business that I work with, and I'm not going to say fired because I negotiated a hell of a deal when I left. And so I didn't have to work for a couple of years. It's like, you guys want me gone? Okay. I felt like I was doing my job, and I felt like I was doing it better than they wanted me to, but I wasn't what they were looking for. And for me, I felt like I had failed. But through adversity, I found success. Because they not asked me to leave that business, I never would have been able to find my true passion, which is selling real estate. And so for that, I thank them. For every job that I left, I took something with me that I made sure that I made myself better, smarter, wiser, and the best businesswoman that I could possibly be.
And I'd love to contextualize a little bit of this for the Junior League, especially about representation. So when we think about leadership roles, we know that, and I can say it safely here, but that, when it comes to men, they will self-nominate themselves for a role that they are not qualified for. And they will do this they will self-nominate themselves probably about where they have about 40% of the qualifications. Women will tend to wait until they've got about 65%, close to 70%, until they think that they may be able to qualify or may consider nominating themselves for a role. When we think about representation specifically, and we think about a woman of color, they're going to wait even closer into the 90th percentile to self-nominate themselves for a role. So bringing this even into the Junior League, when there's talk inside of nominating or there's talk inside of leadership around, there's just no representation. There's no women of color in the pipeline. We want diversity in the pipeline. I encourage you all as ambassadors to help them from that 90% and really get these open invitations of really getting them to that 60%. And I think that that's part of that ambassadorship and stewardship, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about the allyship piece, but that is going to be ways in which we can encourage more representation to really start that pipeline to then representation, and then, of course, as we talked about, the inclusion and belonging piece.
Do you have anything to say about
I thought that they did fantastic, and I would just have to circle back with Carmen that, just press it on repeat because yes and yes.
Yes, exactly. It's kind of a choose my own adventure here right now at the moment because you guys set up two really good questions, but I'm going to go with something that you all mentioned. What is an action or an idea that we can all take away to create more inclusive communities, whether it's Junior League or at work or wherever we may be?
I don't know if I have to. It's interesting. I have a friend who has her own business, and one thing she said to me early on in my career, it was opportunity. We just want an opportunity to succeed. And if you're not given that opportunity, no one will ever know that you have the potential to be a superstar. And so she was competing in an all-male dominated business where she was the only woman who had this business in financial planning. And they would give her a chance. And she says, you know what? By leveling that playing field, boy, does it make a big difference in terms of being able to compete. And maybe I have to work a little harder, but if you give me the opportunity, I will show you what it means to be successful. I can think outside of the box, and I can probably do it even better and smarter than you can. So opportunity.
I'm going to say allyship, so I talked a little bit about it. So back to your meeting where somebody didn't give you that credit, bringing that back up. So I love what Carmen just said, can we bring that back to the agenda? Or I noticed that Candace hasn't been in a couple meetings. Can we make sure that we follow up and make sure she has the notes? Can we find ways in which perhaps we make something virtual so we can accommodate somebody that lives on the east side? Or ways in which we're really starting to think about ways that we can use our privilege to serve as a voice for others.
I think acknowledgement, I think goes a long way in just acknowledging that there are a lot of different things that we may not even realize in bringing others into the league. And I think, what we don't know is what we don't know. And I think just getting that education back and forth from each other to help us, and then also acknowledging that to all of our members and communicating that out would be my message.
And I think I had one more thing too, because I look at this room and there's only a couple of people of color that are in here, and so our train of thought is to bring people in who are like us, because we want our friends involved, right? We want to be able to, hang out with them. We want to be able to learn with them and to share with them. But I would challenge you all to really think about the difference in the impact that you can make by bringing more people into the organization that are not like you. For example, when I came in the league, I was it. Out of 350 divisionals, I was it. And I challenge you, each and every one of you, that if you would be dynamic and make an amazing difference, and just keep your ears and your eyes open to seeing somebody, whether it's on a board or a panel or children's school or wherever it is, just get to know somebody, because that might be that superstar who will be able to propel the league to the next 100 years.
I wasn't asked, but I'm going to add one too. And that is something that I started doing. I know, I did too. I did microphone. Something I heard Van Jones say last night, something that I started doing several years ago: diversify your feed. Your Instagram, your Twitter, wherever you are, make sure that you're following media that maybe you're not. It doesn't have to be certain media, I think that's not your thing, but there are amazing media outlets that cover things from a different perspective, whether it's religious or ethnic or however it is. Just get some different viewpoints in your feed so you're not seeing all the same people saying the same things all the time, and follow people in different continents, and just kind of open your worldview a little bit on a daily basis. Thank you so much for those. I think that we can all use some of that advice. This is probably my last question before we do a little lightning round and open it up to the audience. So please, I'm going to tell you now to get ready with some questions. We have some time for probably 2 or 3, maybe 4 questions. And there will be a mic to pass around, so be ready for that. So we talked about lifelong learning as being a trait of a trailblazer, and it's definitely something that Junior League of Seattle, well, Junior League members in general, tend to go along with. We all tend to be lifelong learners. What are some of the ways that you keep learning right now? And maybe you just want to share maybe the last lesson you learned, or maybe relearned. Sometimes we learn lessons over and over again.
I don't watch the news anymore because it puts me into Negativeville. So that's one of my lessons, is that I've learned to create an environment around me that I hope is positive, and that whenever I walk out my door, I'm not feeling gloom and doom. And that I try to connect with people who, it's not, the world is not a utopia. And so I don't want to be Pollyannish about it, but I do want to connect with people who are different than I am, who I can learn from, and that they may have a different opinion, a different view, a different religious view, a different political view. I'm okay with that. I think that's how we all grow, is that we're different. But there's that common level of respect, that we're able to have a conversation and bring people to the table that are different than us, that allow us still to get the mission done, still get the job done. And actually, you can probably get it done better because diversity is the key in terms of how you can really grow your organization. Because if everybody thinks like you, oh my God, can you imagine just how bland it would be? So bringing in diverse ideas, bringing in diverse people, bringing in diverse political views. My son had me dying when he was at Simon Fraser in his junior year. He was in a bar. And he was there with some students who were from India. And this young man had on a hijab. And he said, oh my God, man, I love your do-rag. And the guy looked at him and he says, maybe you don't know what a do-rag is. But anyway, he says, it's not exactly a do-rag, it's a hijab. And he goes, oh my God, he goes, Mom, I could have gone through the floor. Because he said, I did not have any idea what that was. And at the end of the day, he says, you are American, aren't you? He goes, I am. But he and this guy got a chance to really talk. And he found out that even with their differences in religions and their backgrounds, they had so much in common. And they became really, really good friends. They played football together. They hung out together, and it was a great lifelong lesson for him that sometimes, maybe saying something that was really stupid really helps you to grow and become a better person.
Yeah, and to piggyback a little bit off that, I feel really lucky that through my career and a few years later in the junior league, didn't have to finance this dress, but as you continue to advance your career and then you get to these positions where you serve in a different way and in leadership positions, it sometimes can take you away from and further away from kind of the grassroots or maybe the people that you're helping and serving. And so I recently had a conversation on the board I serve for, and I had a conversation with a student who is LGBTQ, and I said, and we're taking a walk, and I said, who's got your back, and as you're embarking on this college, in this endeavor for college? And he said, no one. My family just kicked me out. I'm on the brink of homelessness. No one has my back except this organization. And it was just these moments, again, where I realized not only do I need to continue to take walks, and I needed to have these reminders where, with this incredible work we're all doing to volunteer and giving back, that I'm not getting too far away from the people that I hope to serve. And that's a constant lesson that I have to continue to think about, even as we continue through leadership.
From lifelong learning, I think when I left my position a year ago at the dealership, I really made it a point to go to every single service shift because I just felt like I had not served the community to the best of my ability the last couple of years before I left. And I learned so much about everything that we do. And I'm always reading. I'm learning from each and every one of you about what you do and your life experiences, and constantly educating myself about as much as I can because there's so much to learn. I could ramble on and on and on, but I think every day I'm always learning something and just trying to give back to those and giving that education back as well of my life experiences.
That's amazing. That super moves me that Junior League could provide that opportunity for you because it's definitely done that for me too. So that's awesome. Thank you. Thank you, ladies, for sharing. So now I have just some lightning round questions, just a quick rapid fire, top of mind answer is what we're looking for. So, and strangely enough, my first question, favorite Junior League service shift?
Why spinning for me? What's been the difference?
It's the fellow. It's the where you go and you cook the food with the kids.
Oh, because in the kitchen. We had
Seattle Urban Academy.
Seattle Urban Academy. That's mine too. Yeah, it's a good one.
Can I have two?
Yes. Well, I mean, if you did all the services.
I did a lot in a 3-month period. I just kind of kept going. And one of them was when we did the YWCA on Cherry Street, and there was a committee that got together and actually did a spa night. And so it was fantastic. So we had a massage chair, and so I think some of these women are in government housing or homeless and unfortunately from abusive relationships. And so we did manicures and had a hairstylist there, and I was there able to actually volunteer. So it was super fun. I just had a great time. And yeah, so it was a lot of fun. But then the other one was at the Amara, which is the adoption, which was, I managed the bouncy house. So we were very strategic. we were very controlled about shoes off, next in line. There's only 2, so we kind of handled it management style. So those poor little 3-year-olds, but they survived me. So it was a lot of fun, and Amara was just amazing because it was really a reunion of families. But what I really learned at that service shift was that there were actually children that had little name tags on it. There was just this adorable little girl, and she was maybe 2 years old, and she had a little sticker, and she couldn't have her picture taken because of the safety for the family. So I think those types of things you really. I wouldn't have had that experience without the league, and so I feel very fortunate that there were 2 and just really serving our community that I feel so blessed to be able to be a part of.
Last book that you read?
I'll start on that one because I read this book every day because it's by Dale Carnegie, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. This book started in 1948, and probably in my 30s, which I'm still in, I took the Dale Carnegie course, and I'm always, worried, and oh my gosh, and especially trying to progress my career and being in the industry that I was in, I was just always really, really worried, and so it is an amazing book, and it just tells you, what's the worst that can happen. Just walk in like you own the place.
I thought you were going to say last thing I read. I'm going
It
to
can be
tell
the
you.
last thing that you
I was
read.
going to say, because diversity and inclusion work, there is fatigue. It's a real thing. So it was Us Weekly.
Perfect. Perfect.
People
People magazine.
I guess I can cheat a little bit because, as I said, I don't watch the news because it puts me into a state of depression. But I get up every morning and I do our daily bread. It's a wonderful opportunity to really connect with a higher being and with myself and how I want to become a better person. And then I guess the other one, if I'm not cheating, is my husband's book on slavery and honest family. So they came here in 1898. It was the first white family.
Wow. Good plug. Robert,
Amazon.
I love it. Favorite leadership motto or words to live by? Lisa, I think I know you've said it a couple times. Walk in like you own the place. Yeah. But if you have another, you can share that one. Carmen?
Well, as I said, I was going to end the way I started, is be the change that you want to see in the world, and also be kind to one another.
I'll go with our mission at work, which is truly to build places where people feel welcome, valued, respected, and heard.
I love that. Song that gets you going, whatever needs to happen, you need a good song. What's that go-to song?
Anything by Michael Jackson.
That'll work.
Gets me going.
Yeah.
Kanye before Kanye went crazy. Watch the Throne, the entire album.
Yeah. How about you, Lisa?
So this, I feel like I'm dating myself, but there's a song by Chicago, if you've heard of Chicago. And it's called Feeling Stronger Every Day. And if you hear it, it's a lot of fun, but I also like happy. Right?
Yeah.
It's like happy, but
How can you not be happy when you're listening to it? It's okay. I used to work with high school students for a little bit, and they didn't know who U2 was, so don't worry. I mean, it's just a thing. Best binge-worthy show. What is this? Binge-worthy show. Netflix or something you could just watch all night long.
I've been watching a show called Schitt's Creek
I love that show.
on Netflix.
Tell my guilty pleasure. I like to be intellectual and say, oh, I'll watch something on
It
National
all goes downhill
Geographic.
now.
I know. I'll watch not Days of Our Lives, but The Young and the Restless, and The Bold and the Beautiful. And This Is Us.
for me, I could just watch reruns of Sex and the City like all the time. Like, so my husband travels a lot, and there's this channel. I'm like, oh my god, Cosmo, there it is. And I'll just sit there with popcorn. So
That was really my secret of like what I really wanted to do was just make sure that everybody knows we're all the same, really, underneath. Like we all have these guilty pleasures. My last rapid lightning round question is your best tip for when life gets a little too much, your calendar's a little too full, you need a little break. What is your go-to to deal?
I think the important thing is to know when you have had enough. Because I think as women, we don't always realize that we are maxed out. And then, it all hits the fan. And so, the first thing is stay away from my husband because he only insists it more, and he knows it. And go to the room, close the door, and just meditate.
So mine was like really tactical because I was like, have you downloaded Pomodoro? Because that's how I get it done. Pomodoro is this app where you spend 20 minutes, then you take a 5-minute break, and it will time it, and then you can get your list done. So if you haven't downloaded Pomodoro, that's how you get it
I've
done.
got it worked in already.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Spoken like a true junior leaguer.
I'm going to go with Carmen, just meditation and breathing. I do a lot of breathing exercises, so to kind of bring it all back down and get centered again.
Yes, take a break. It's okay. It will still be there when you're done. Yes, thank you all so much. We're going to open up to some audience questions. And I know Trisha has a microphone, and she'll do a little Phil Donahue. We'll talk about dating or something. No, wait, no, sorry. It won't be Phil Donahue style. It'll be running around the audience with microphone style. Questions?
Okay, good. Somebody close.
So you've talked about some habits that you have. Are there things that you do daily or on a regular basis that you feel like have helped you become impactful in either your career or in the junior league or elsewhere?
That's a great question. As I mentioned earlier, when I get up, and I get up every morning, probably around 5:30 or 6, I'm a morning person, so it's about my bedtime now. Yeah. But I do open the daily bread, because it really does help me to get in touch with just being in the moment and starting my day. And then I'll go to another book that just gives me a parable. And then I just kind of think about what the day ahead is going to bring and trying to not allow the day to control me, but try to figure out how I can put some rationalization around a day that I already know is going to be out of control. And in real estate, I never know what that day is going to be like. I never know when somebody wants to buy $1 million house or somebody wants to buy a $200 house, $200,000 house.
Where's the $200 house?
But for me, it doesn't matter. A client is a client because they're all treated as important. And so, when the phone rings, I have to be ready to answer it because these millennials, if you don't answer it, they'll go to the next person. So just being able to wake up, trying to get your day started, and having some control around it.
So for me, mine's not necessarily daily, but it hit me because I think you said it also, but guys have the golf course and they've got the bar. So I instilled a few years ago a personal board of directors. And so these are people that I've worked with over a tenure of time. And they're not actually, to be very clear, make no mistake, they are not my friends. These are people that will challenge me, and excuse my French, they will challenge my shit. And I will go to them either as a collective group or individually, and I will bring to them things that I'm conceptualizing for me personally in my own development, not a work problem. And I will get the best feedback from them as it relates to me, my career, my goals, my ambitions. And we do this about once a year where we try to get together to actually have kind of a feedback session. And it's proven over probably the past 5 years to be really deeply impactful. And as I mentioned, this is not friendships that are like, go, yay, you. This is true accountability partners that are not nice and are not, but that has truly kept me really rooted in what I've desired to do.
I think from a daily standpoint, I just always wake up with how am I going to make a positive impact on the day, and who am I going to make sure that I am positive in reflection each touch point of every dealership that I go into, and making sure that I'm teaching and coaching and training to the best of my ability. And I would say probably once a month, I have lunch with my previous CFO, who was also very authentic in his delivery and communication, and very constructive in helping me become who I am in my career and also personally. So we go to lunch once a month to keep me just on track and making sure that, bouncing different ideas on the direction that I want to go.
Candace, you count as this panelist
No,
too.
we don't have time for that. A habit? Well, I'm with Carmen. I like to get ahead of the day. I like to know what's happening and what's going on. This seems dumb, but I use color coding on a paper calendar still. I have to write things down to remember them, so you'll see me taking notes a lot of the time. So a paper calendar works for me, and green is my junior league color, and blue is my advocacy color, and red is something with Smeamish High School, because my daughter goes there, and pink is something fun for the family, and light pink is friends' birthdays and going out, and there's some other colors. Orange is Pilates. I don't know. It works for me, because I can physically, actually visualize my day, and I know what's happening.
Hi, I was wondering if you could comment based on the fact that we have a lot of provisional and active members here. You can kind of take this question as you would like, but the Junior League is something a lot less than a drive-by volunteer commitment. It is literally almost getting an MBA in volunteerism after your other career. So during that time, because it is such a major commitment, there are times when people may think of I'm going to abandon this, I'm not going to actually go through to the sustainer level, or I'm not quite sure where to go with the placement or what have you. I thought you ladies might be able to give some advice in that broad area to the ladies in the audience.
I would say don't quit. I told the story when I was on another panel when I was a member of, when I was a sustainer and I was pregnant at the time. And there was an expectation, and I think when you go on boards or committees or you're involved in the Junior League, be committed, step up, and be accountable. Because if you join an organization, don't take it for granted that your time is not valuable. And if Katie's here, and if Lisa's here, and I know I'm supposed to be here, I need to show up, or I need to get out. And so when I was in the league, it was expected that you had to be at all the provisional meetings. It did not matter, you had to be at all of them. And lo and behold, my son Chandler decided he was ready to come into this world. And I was in the hospital having him, and it's before mobile phones. I'd go home and I have this voicemail message that said, "Oh, this is Andrea. We missed you at the last meeting." And I said, "Oh yeah, I was having a baby." So I called her and I said, "I got your call, and I was in the hospital. I had a child." And she goes, "Oh, congratulations! But when are you going to make up that meeting?" So it was that expectation that she had. Now I had two choices. She annoyed the heck out of me because it's like, God, didn't that count that I had a child? But I could have left indignantly, or I could have stayed. And I stayed, and I am so happy I stayed because it opened so many doors. It taught me about commitment. It taught me about leadership. It taught me about stepping up and being accountable, not taking on anything and not following through with it. And I ended up having the best group of friends that I'm still friends with to this day. So stick with it.
And I think I talk about the system. So I think the system is in place for you not to fail. I actually do believe you have to royally screw something up to fail in a volunteer-led organization. Because honestly, and it's not like, I'm not saying don't reach for the stars and don't try. I'm saying with such a great network of support, with co-chairs and teams here to help motivate and help you succeed, honestly, with a little bit of transparency and what may be thrown in your way, like having a baby, and also with the system in place, the way it's designed to be, I think that no matter what gets thrown your way, I think that, in that place you really can, and with so many of the different accommodations that are made, quite frankly, from, the leaves and taking time off, I think that really getting from, that one day when I walked in as a provisional to, I can't even believe I had to print out a list to see all of the different shifts I had done over the years, because I quite frankly forgot. It really does go very fast.
I would definitely agree. In my league career, I've definitely had times where I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so overwhelmed. And then there's times where I can definitely be all in. And the peace of mind that I had, and I remember my provisional year, was the fact that I was constantly encouraged and supported. And, what do you need? How can we make sure that you have an amazing league career? You may want to go into this direction. You may want to go into that direction. There were so many different avenues for me to continue my league career, along with working with a lot of the other portions of leadership and going in and just really educating myself about the league and what it can do for me. And then also the league understanding that, we're human, right? We have that human factor. We have works, we have families, we have a lot of other things. And having that inclusiveness that it's going to be okay. You may have a little bit of a wonky year, but then, you know what? No worries. Just we're going to keep this going, and you're in the league, and we know that you're here to serve the community. So that's probably been the most impactful portion of the league, is just league understanding what works for me and vice versa.
So we are at time. And also, I'll just say, I had a year where I almost quit, and it was somebody reaching out and just being a friend and being there, and then saying, don't quit because of one person. So that can happen sometimes. And I cannot imagine my life without those years since then. So stick with it and find that person. Find your Susan. She's out there. And she gets you. There's someone in this room that gets you. So just reach out. So we are at time. I know the ladies are happy to stick around afterwards. I do want to say, these are topics and you guys have experiences that we could talk about all night. I want to, but we know that you also need to go do things. Like sleep. So thank you so much. I just, when they asked me to moderate, I was actually sad because I was looking forward to sitting in the audience and watching you all. But it has been a tremendous honor, and such a great experience working with you and getting to know you and fishing these stories out for you and being part of this event with you. So thank you. You'll have a chance to applaud later, so I'm going to just be right through this. I'll just put a plug in for the Diversity and Inclusion Task Force, which you've all received an email today with some opportunities for getting further involved, whether it's as coming to a committee meeting. We also have some openings on the task force. This is in addition to your placement. And the application is open now for it's about a week and a half. We would love to have you. We also have our affinity groups still going for Women of Color in Junior League, and Katie's your contact. And we would like to start other affinity groups. So if you have something that you would like to talk to other people about, that's what that is about. So please check that email tonight or tomorrow or in the near future. And I'm going to turn it over to Lori Ayers. Thank you.
Wow, that was pretty powerful. Thank you, Lisa, Katie, and Carmen for sharing your experiences. You inspire me to be more open, to be more acceptable, and to listen and learn from others out there. So thank you for coming tonight. We have a little gift for you. And just one last thing for our provisionals. You see tonight firsthand why we're members of the League with women like this. You're surrounded by women like this. They're all different, but same. Thank you for coming tonight.
All right, ladies, I'm going to throw this to me, but one over. Trisha was in the back, but I had thrown out their names earlier, and I do just want to highlight them again. This is Lori Ayers, Trisha Thompson, and Laura Garcia Pendergrass were the sustainers who put this event together and drove everything, arranged all the programming, the venue. These women put their heart into this and really contributed, oh my gosh, countless hours. So these are sustainers that you should know. So if you have an extra minute, you see them in the lobby, where Lori's probably like, thanks. You should say hello because these women give so much to the Junior League. So we just say thank you. And you're going to do this forever, right? I'll dismiss. Thank you, ladies, for coming, and I hope you enjoyed the program. And yeah, have a great night. Drive safely, and we'll see you at the next event.